My best friend was dead set on setting me up with her brother. According to her, he was a dream come true. Good-looking, kind, ridiculously fit, and could even cook. Just meet him once, she insisted. You'll be obsessed. After weeks of her persistence, I finally gave up and agreed to visit her family home. When I arrived, her brother was nowhere to be seen, but her older brother was. Leaning in, Ruby whispered, "That one's single too. But fair warning, he's got a kid." The mom bailed right after giving birth, left him to raise their daughter alone. I didn't think much of it. Until halfway through my so-called blind date, a tiny girl ran up to me, tugged my sleeve, and called me mommy. And right behind her stood the man Ruby had just mentioned. My ex. The one I'd left 3 years ago. Ruby and I had bonded over misery and minimum wage. We were broke, exhausted, and surviving on cheap noodles and shared Wi-Fi. We split rent with 2 other roommates and lived off coffee and hope. When we weren't working double shifts, we were splitting takeout and complaining about life. Then one afternoon, Ruby dropped a bomb. "I'm quitting," she said out of nowhere. I thought she'd been fired and immediately got ready to storm into our boss's office to fight for her. She stopped me, eyes gleaming. "No, you don't get it. I'm rich now." Turns out, her biological parents were loaded and had finally found her after years of searching. Overnight, she went from ramen dinners to champagne brunches. But Ruby wasn't the type to forget who struggled beside her. Suddenly, she was treating me to fine dining, shopping trips, even spa days. "Sienna, it's amazing how easy spending becomes when it's not your own hard-earned money," she'd sigh, lounging in the back seat of a chauffeur-driven car. "You should quit too. I'll find you a rich husband." I laughed it off until she sat me down 3 days later, dead serious. "I've thought it through," she said. "My brother is perfect for you." Before I could argue, she started listing his qualifications like she was reading from a resume. He's tall, handsome, smart, works out, cooks, and most importantly, he's mine. If he ever dares hurt you, I'll destroy him. She ended her pitch with finality. "You're going on a date with him this weekend." End of discussion. I blinked. "Ruby, I can't." "Why not? You deserve someone amazing, and he is." When she reached for her phone to call him, I grabbed her wrist in panic. "Wait," I said quietly. "There's something you don't know." Her brows lifted. "I have a child," I confessed. "With my ex." The story of me and Noah could have come straight from a drama series. We met during my exchange program in Sydney. I spotted him at a party, and something about him pulled me in instantly. He wasn't loud or charming. He was quiet, almost distant. That made me chase him harder. It took 6 months before he finally opened up to me. The day I confessed my feelings, he hesitated, then took off a small device behind his ear, a cochlear implant. "I was born with a hearing loss," he said softly. "Are you sure you want to deal with that?" When I didn't answer right away, his shoulders sagged. He gave me a small, sad smile and started to walk away. I caught his arm. "I'm sure," I said. "So, can we try?" He froze, then looked at me, as if seeing light for the first time. "Okay." From then on, Noah learned fast. He went from awkward to effortlessly affectionate. He started noticing every detail, how I liked my coffee, the way I smiled when I was tired, the songs I hummed in the shower. Physically, I was drawn to him like gravity. His quiet strength, the way his arms felt around me, it was magnetic. But no matter how heated things got, he always stopped before crossing the line. Until that Christmas. I spent hours getting ready for our Christmas date. Just when I was about to leave, an old friend from home called. He was in Sydney for one night only and wanted to catch up. I figured I'd meet him for a quick dinner, then head to Noah's afterward. What I didn't expect was for Noah to show up at the restaurant. He stood by the door, arms folded, eyes unreadable. After my friend left, Noah quietly took my hand and led me back to my apartment. He didn't say a word. I assumed he wasn't wearing his implant again. When we stepped inside, I saw a massive Christmas tree glowing softly in the corner, surrounded by neatly wrapped gifts and a shiny apple resting on the rug. Then he had me against the wall. His grip was firm, his touch lingering as he brushed the strap of my dress. "You look stunning," he murmured. Was that for him? I realized then he wasn't deaf. He was jealous. I opened my mouth to explain, but his lips captured mine before I could say a word. Under the tree's golden lights, the air turned molten. I expected him to pull back, like always. But instead, he reached for a small box among the gifts. Inside was a ring. He slid it onto my finger, his forehead resting against mine. Sienna, I'll take care of you, he whispered. I'll marry you. So, can I? Tears stung my eyes. Yes, I breathed. The night unfolded in a blur of heat and emotion. At one point, I remember gasping, begging him to slow down, but he only smiled and removed his implant, pretending not to hear. The ring stayed on my hand, cold and solid against his skin. I thought it was just a promise ring. I didn't realize how serious he was until I posted our photo online and someone commented, "Wait, is that a Harry Winston diamond? Girl, are you dating a billionaire?" I never pictured Noah as someone with money. I certainly did not expect the ring on my finger to be worth more than $500,000. It felt obscene, and I could not accept something so extravagant. When I tried to give it back, he only smiled. You don't return a gift. Standing there, watching light catch the weave of his white tee, I realized even his casual clothes were couture, each shirt likely more than I earned in months. Suddenly the gulf between our lives felt impossible to bridge. Will your family try to force an arranged marriage on you? I asked one day. He squeezed my hand and said, calm and steady, I'll refuse. I meant it when I said I want to marry you. After that Christmas, Noah let go of his reserve. He would take off his implant, pull me into reckless little adventures at home, and we'd find private ways to be close. Once, we were careless enough that the condom broke, and 3 months later, I was pregnant. Around the same time, his family piled on pressure, threatening disownment unless he agreed to an arranged match. I braced for a breakup, but instead he showed up at my door in a rainstorm, suitcase in hand. Wet and grinning, he declared, I'm here, Sienna. I'm not leaving. Youth makes people bold, and Noah was ready to walk away from wealth for us. I chose to carry our child. At first, he was devoted through the pregnancy, but when his family cut him off, life became harsh. He'd never known cramped trains or discount stores. He wore cheaper replacements for his implant, which didn't work as well, and one day a gang of boys taunted him in a supermarket, calling him names. He stood there, humiliated and stunned, and watching him break was like watching our reckless decision unravel. 3 months later, our daughter was born. While Noah reveled in fatherhood, I told him I wanted to end things. I had rehearsed my reasons. The one I landed on was cruel and precise. I said his impairment would be a burden, that I wanted a normal life. The words hit him like a blow. He pleaded, promising to work and buy a better implant, begging me not to leave. I remained cold. He held our baby up and asked hoarse, What about her? Don't you want her? No, I said. He looked at me until he cracked a laugh that was all pain. Sienna, you said you didn't care about my hearing when we started. If you can't accept it now, what was that? A lie? We split ugly. Noah took our daughter back to his family. I moved to a different city. His mother offered me money before I left. I refused it, too young and proud to take a consolation check. I never reached out again. I never saw my child. When I told Ruby the story, I glossed over the details. I kept names vague. She hugged me and insisted it was done, that I could move on. You're single, meet my brother, she said, as if that would fix everything. I admitted, quietly, that I wasn't fully over my ex. That only made her push harder. Eventually, worn down by her nagging, I agreed to one meeting, just a simple hello. Ruby's family home was in New York, an extravagant place with manicured gardens that looked airbrushed. I hesitated about going, partly because Noah's family was also from the city, but rationalized that New York is too vast for a fate reunion. The odds of bumping into him were tiny. Ruby chattered about her brother as we walked through the grounds. In the distance, I noticed a man on a veranda, back turned. Ruby nodded. Oh, that's my older brother. She added, gossiping, he's got a kid. The mother ran off after birth. He's sworn off love. The story sounded like Noah's life, if his surname were different. We reached a table with pastries, where Leo, Ruby's other brother, waited. Ruby kept hyping him up, but when I looked at him I froze. He bore a striking resemblance to Noah, most of all in the eyes. For a second I wondered if my longing was distorting reality. When he spoke my name, I assumed Ruby had told him who I was. He stared at me, puzzled. Ruby urged him to be polite and start the date, but he balked, saying it felt like a bad idea. He blushed as he admitted he might have a problem with it because his big brother would. I felt lost in the conversation. Then a small girl barreled toward us, ponytail bouncing, cheeks full of childhood. Ruby called her Rosie, and the child ignored her to wrap herself around my legs. Mommy, she declared in a tiny voice. My chest went cold. Ruby corrected her, gently, but Rosie insisted she'd seen pictures and knew. She even tilted her head and looked startlingly familiar, like a mirror of me as a child. The blood drained from my face. I asked Ruby the name of her brother, but before she could answer, a voice called, Rosie, come to Daddy. I turned. Noah stood there, older, leaner, wearing a white shirt. For an instant his eyes met mine. Then he scooped up the child. He spoke to her with quiet authority, telling her she couldn't call anyone Mommy. The child should call me Aunt Sienna instead. Rosie protested with small, loud tears. Noah's voice flattened as he reprimanded her. Everything compressed. Ruby realized pieces snapping into place. She grabbed my hand, stunned. Leo shuffled, looking like he wanted to defuse the moment. Noah's face, however, was cold. He said my name with a clipped tone, mocking and flat. Long time, Sienna. I thought you wanted nothing to do with this Steffi anymore. Back to see your daughter? Every syllable hurt. I opened my mouth but sound failed me. Ruby intervened, defending me, but Noah's scoffing continued, accusing me of abandoning him and the child. I could feel my humiliation like heat on my skin. I couldn't stay. I bolted, the voices and Rosie's sobs fading behind me as I ran out of the gated grounds and into the street. I did not stop until I was far away, lungs burning, tears hot and steady. I'd thought 3 years would be enough to bury the past, but seeing Noah proved I had been wrong, the old wound tearing open all over again. Back in my apartment, I crawled beneath the blanket and cried until my chest ached and no more tears would come. My phone buzzed nonstop, Ruby's name flashing again and again, but I couldn't bring myself to answer. I couldn't face her, and I definitely couldn't face the brother whose life I'd broken. When the phone finally went silent, I thought she'd given up, until someone began pounding on my door. Sienna, open up. I know you're in there. If you don't, I'm calling the police and saying you kidnapped my niece. I groaned into my pillow. That was Ruby in a nutshell, dramatic threats first, compassion later. When I opened the door, she didn't even hesitate. She pulled me into a tight hug. Look at your eyes, she whispered. They're swollen. Stop crying, please. I stepped back, my throat raw. Did you come to mock me? Mock you? Are you insane? Sit down, she said, steering me toward the couch. Her tone softened. I need to understand what's going on. You, my brother, and Rosie, just tell me the truth. Are you really her mother? There was no reason to lie anymore. I nodded and told her everything. The reckless love, Noah's fall from grace, how I'd pushed him away with cruel words so he'd go back to his family, and how her mother had paid me off to disappear. Ruby listened in stunned silence. When I finished, she sat motionless for a moment, then let out a sharp slap on her thigh. I knew it. I knew something didn't add up. My brother's too sentimental to notice anything. And my mom, how could she do something so awful? She began pacing, angry energy radiating off her. Then she grabbed her phone. I'm calling him. I'll fix this right now. Don't, I said quickly, catching her arm. Why not? Once he knows, everything can go back to how it was. You still love him, don't you? It's not that simple, I said quietly. What's broken can't just be patched up with an explanation. He has every right to hate me. Noah had built a life for himself, successful and stable, while I had learned to survive on my own. Forcing our worlds to collide again would only reopen wounds best left alone. I thought that was it, that our paths had finally diverged for good. But Ruby never let things end neatly, and fate seemed to enjoy adding chaos to my life. The following evening, while I was working late, my phone buzzed with an unknown number. Hello. Sienna, it's me. Noah's voice. My heart lurched. Is something wrong? Rosie's sick, he said, his tone strained. She keeps crying for you. The doctor said it's better if she sees her mother. Can you come to the hospital? I'm on my way, I said instantly. I took the first cab I could find and rushed to the address he sent. Rosie lay in a private room, small and flushed, mumbling mommy in her sleep. Noah sat beside her bed, exhaustion written all over him. She's been like this since yesterday, he said quietly. I brushed a strand of hair from Rosie's forehead. She was burning up. My chest tightened. It's okay, baby. Mommy's here, I whispered. At my voice, her tiny fingers relaxed in mine, her breathing slowed, and she drifted into peaceful sleep. Noah exhaled shakily. The doctor says it's acute gastroenteritis. She'll be fine after a few days on fluids. He hesitated, then added, Ruby told me everything. My stomach twisted. I didn't know where to look. He stood silently for a long moment before his voice cracked. Why didn't you tell me the truth, Sienna? Do you know what these 3 years were like for me? His eyes were bloodshot, his face drawn. Every day, I thought about what you said, wondering if any of it was real. When you told me my hearing didn't matter, did you mean it? When you said you loved me, was that true? When you promised to marry me? Each question hit harder than the last. My eyes blurred. I'm sorry, I whispered. I thought I was protecting you. I didn't realize I was destroying us. He didn't move, didn't reach out. He just stood there, all tension and exhaustion. Finally, he sighed, voice rough. Forget it. It's over now. Just visit Rosie more often. She misses you. There was no forgiveness in his tone, only fatigue, the kind that seeps into the bones and never really leaves. After that night, I began visiting regularly, always under the excuse of seeing Rosie. Noah didn't object, but he never let me close either. His politeness was like glass between us, transparent yet unbreakable. He'd leave the door unlocked, slippers ready, and dinner waiting if I came late from work. But our conversations stayed surface level, revolving only around our daughter. Rosie drew a family portrait at school today. Rosie got a gold star for reading. Rosie's teacher wants us both at the parent meeting next week. I never refused. I built my schedule around those visits, afraid to miss even a moment. At the conference, we sat side by side for the first time in years. His cologne, faint and familiar, made my chest ache. I glanced at him and caught him already looking at me. He turned away quickly, but not before I saw the faint flush on his ears. That tiny, involuntary reaction reignited something small and stubborn inside me. Hope. Afterward, we went to pick up Rosie together. When she saw us both waiting, her face lit up. Mommy and Daddy came together, she squealed, gripping our hands as she skipped between us. The sun dipped low, casting 3 long shadows on the pavement. 1 small, 2 side by side. For a fleeting moment, it felt like the family we might have been, if only love had been enough. And in that quiet sunset glow, I realized that even if time couldn't rewind, maybe, just maybe, it could still heal. The weekend shifted everything. I was playing with Rosie in the living room while Noah worked in his study when Ruby barreled in, panic etched on her face.
Noah.
Mom's here. My hand shook, and the block tower I had just built toppled. Mrs. Sterling, what was she doing here? Before I could even think to hide, an elegant woman swept in, flanked by maids. Her gaze landed on me, icy and sharp. Sienna? What are you doing here? She asked, her voice dripping contempt. I rose to my feet, cheeks burning. Mrs. Sterling. Don't you dare call me that, she snapped. After taking my money and disappearing for 3 years, you crawl back to my son? Have you no shame? Ruby's face flushed.
Mom, how can you say that?
If it weren't for you, Sienna and Noah wouldn't have broken up. Am I wrong? Mrs. Sterling shot back. Without me, your brother would still be living in a hovel, mocked for his disability. What has this woman ever done besides drag him down? I didn't, I said, finally finding my voice. I never dragged him down. You didn't, she laughed bitterly. So you're not after money? You didn't have Rosie just to trap him into marriage? It's not true. I shook, both with anger and fear. I never wanted your money. I never even cashed the check. Her lips curled in a sneer.
Sure.
Whatever you say. I wouldn't put past you to play the long game. The study door opened. Noah stepped out, calm but sharp. Mother, have you said enough? His tone was ice. Her confidence faltered. No, I told you before, stay out of my life. Sienna is Rosie's mother, and she is my guest. Treat her with respect. Your guest, she shrieked. Are you insane? Have you forgotten what she did to you? Enough. Noah's voice thundered. You know exactly why she said those things. If you hadn't forced her, would she ever have left me? Mrs. Sterling could only sputter. I was trying to help you. Help me. Noah laughed, bitter and low. By tearing us apart for 3 years? By raising Rosie without her mother? If you truly wanted to help, you would have left her alone. He didn't glance at her again. Instead, he strode to me and took my hand. His palm was warm, and it sent a jolt straight to my heart. Sienna, he said, voice steady and certain. Let's start over. This time, I'm not letting you go. I froze. Start over? My mind blinked. Mrs. Sterling looked ready to collapse.
Noah.
Are you choosing her over me? I'm not choosing anyone over you, he said, calm yet unwavering. I'm choosing the life I want. I've tried to forget her. I've dated other women. But I can't. Mom, I love her. I've only ever loved her. He held my gaze, pulling me in without touching. Sienna, will you give me another chance? Will you give our daughter a complete family? Rosie had toddled to my side, wrapping her tiny arms around my legs. Mommy, don't go. Rosie wants her mommy. Tears blurred my vision. How could I say no? Yes, I whispered. In an instant, Noah pulled me close, holding me like he would never let me go. Thank God, he murmured. I've waited so long for this. Mrs. Sterling stormed out, furious and defeated. Ruby gave me a sly thumbs up and quietly ushered Leo and Rosie out, leaving us alone. Noah lifted my face in his hands and kissed me, soft, tender, rediscovering, not punishing. We stumbled into the bedroom, leaving a trail of cloves behind. He removed his cochlear implant just like he used to. Sienna, he whispered, warm breath on my ear, I've missed you so much. I missed you too, I replied, leaning close. That night, we made up for lost time, for years stolen. The next morning, I opened my eyes and saw it, the Harry Winston ring, brilliant on the nightstand. Noah wrapped his arms around me from behind. Put it on, he murmured. And this time, never take it off. I slid it onto my finger, the cool metal sending shivers through my heart. This time, nothing would take him from me. We got our marriage license soon after. There was no grand wedding, just a quiet dinner with close friends. Ruby, ecstatic, cried and gushed over me. Noah ever bothers you, I'll fight him for you, she laughed. Noah smiled patiently, handing her tissues. His mother didn't attend. I heard she was hospitalized from stress. I wanted to visit, but Noah stopped me. Don't worry. That's just how she is. She'll come around, he said, squeezing my hand. You have me now. Nothing can hurt you. Married life was peaceful. Noah treated me like royalty. Breakfasts crafted to my taste, ginger tea when I wasn't well, thoughtful surprises for every anniversary. I devoted myself to Rosie and our home, leaving demanding work behind. I read bedtime stories, attended school events, and watched our daughter bloom under our care. Even my mother-in-law softened. Daily visits with homemade soup thawed her icy demeanor, until one day she gruffly said, "Just take care of Noah." Harsh, yes, but it was acceptance. One sunny afternoon, curled in Noah's arms, we found an old photo from Sydney. Did you see that comment about the Harry Winston ring back then? I asked. He nodded. So, you knew I knew about your family? Yes, he said, eyes full of amusement. I punched his chest playfully. And you said nothing? He kissed my knuckles, laughing softly. I wanted to see if my Sienna truly loved me, if money could ever make you leave. Luckily, he whispered, tightening his hold, you didn't disappoint. Sunlight bathed him in gold. He leaned down, eyes shining with love. Sienna, thank you, he said. Thank you for coming back to me. I kissed him, smiling through tears. We had taken detours, endured heartbreak, but in the end, we found our way back. And this time, we wouldn't let go.